I work 14-hour shifts as a senior partner at a surgical clinic. I know how to save a failing heartbeat in the ER the way most people know how to tie their shoes. So when my parents called after years of coldness and invited me to a massive dinner to celebrate my promotion, I should have asked one question before I said yes. What's the real catch? I didn't ask. I drove to the perfect house on Elm Street, walked through the front doors, and found my aunts, uncles, and brother already seated around a huge table covered in roast beef, wine, and a cake they'd bought before I pulled into the driveway. My father tapped his glass from the head of the table, smiled, and dropped a heavy legal binder right on my plate. "You're signing a $150K loan today, right? You owe us that much." He thought he'd cornered me. He hadn't counted on me dropping his settlement papers directly into the fireplace, or the police warrant I was about to drop at his country club party months later. If you've ever been the one expected to pay, to fix, to stay quiet, this story is for you. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. My name is Ivy. I'm 32. It was Sunday, November 7th, 2021, 6:45 a.m. I stood by the marble island in my parents' house in West Omaha, dragging the edge of the knife over a slice of wheat bread. The black crumbs fell into the stainless steel sink. I was 32 years old, an attending physician at Nebraska Medical Center, and I had just worked a 14-hour shift. My feet felt numb, my shoulders ached, but in this house, at 412 Elm Street, I was just the person who was making breakfast too slowly. "Ivy, you are getting crumbs everywhere," a voice said from behind me. My mother, Helen, walked into the kitchen. She was fully dressed, her hair sprayed perfectly into place, wearing her pearl earrings. She wiped the counter next to me with a cloth, even though there was nothing there. "Sorry, Mom, I'll clean it up," I said softly. She didn't look at my face. Instead, her eyes went up and down my faded blue hospital scrubs. She sighed. "Are you really going to wear that today? Your father's friends from the Rotary Club might drop by later. You look like you just rolled out of bed." "I just came from the hospital, Mom. I had a long night in the ER. "Well," she said, opening the fridge, "we all work hard, Ivy. You don't have to announce it." I swallowed the lump in my throat and put the toast on a white plate. I learned a long time ago that arguing only made the coldness last longer. A moment later, heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. My father, Richard, walked in. He was a tall man, always standing with his chest pushed out. In our community, people loved him. He owned a local construction supply business. He gave money to the church. He sponsored the Little League baseball teams. Everyone thought he was a saint. "Morning, Richard," my mom said, her voice instantly getting softer, sweeter. "Morning. Coffee ready?" he asked. He sat at the head of the large dining table. He didn't say good morning to me. He just picked up the local newspaper and opened it. I poured his coffee into his favorite black mug and set it down next to his hand, along with the plate of toast. "Thanks," he muttered, not looking up. I sat down 2 chairs away from him, holding my own cup of tea. The silence in the room felt heavy. I wanted to tell them my news. I had been waiting all night to share it. I took a deep breath. "Dad? Mom?" I started. My voice shook a little. "Dr. Evans talked to me yesterday. The board is voting next month. They are considering making me a senior partner at the surgical clinic." My mom stopped wiping the stove. My dad slowly lowered his newspaper. For a second, just one tiny second, I thought I saw pride in his eyes. I wanted that pride so badly. I had spent 12 years of my life studying, missing birthdays, losing sleep, just to see him look at me like I mattered. "Partner," my dad said slowly. "That means more hours, doesn't it?" "A little," I said, trying to smile. "But it also means I'll have a share in the practice. It's a huge step for my career." My dad took a sip of his coffee. "Just don't let it go to your head, Ivy. A title is just a title. What matters is family. And honestly, with more hours, when are you going to settle down? You're not getting any younger." Before I could answer, the front door opened, and then slammed shut. "Hey, I'm here," a loud, cheerful voice called out. My brother Leo walked into the kitchen. He was 28, wearing designer jeans and a fresh white shirt. He hadn't held a steady job in 4 years. 2 months ago, he started a digital marketing consulting business from his bedroom. He had 0 clients, but the moment he walked in, the entire room changed. My mother dropped her cleaning cloth and rushed over to hug him. "Leo, oh, you look so handsome today. Did you sleep well?" My dad put the newspaper down completely. A huge, warm smile spread across his face. "There he is, the CEO. How's the new business going, son?" Leo sat down right next to my dad. "It's going great, Dad. Huge things coming. I'm talking to some big investors next week. That's my boy, Dad laughed, patting Leo on the back. Big things, I can feel it. I sat there, watching them. My hands tightened around my warm teacup. Nobody offered Leo burnt toast. My mom was already making fresh pancakes for him. Actually, Dad, Leo said, rubbing the back of his neck. I kind of need a small favor, just a temporary thing. The smile on my dad's face didn't fade. Anything. What do you need? The lease for my new office space. They need a 6-month deposit. It's about $8,000. I'm just a little short right now because my money is tied up in, digital assets. Leo didn't have digital assets. I knew that. My dad knew that. But my dad just nodded thoughtfully. I see, Dad said. He turned his head and looked directly at me. His eyes were completely different now. Cold. Calculating. Ivy, he said. His tone wasn't asking, it was telling. You just said you're doing very well at the hospital. You're going to be a partner. I said they are voting on it, Dad, I replied, my heart starting to beat faster. Right, so you have a good income. Your brother needs $8,000 to get his business off the ground. Write him a check today. I froze. Dad, I just paid my own student loan installment. I can't just drop $8,000. That's my emergency savings. My father's face hardened. The friendly community man disappeared. Emergency? What emergency do you have? You live alone in a quiet apartment. Your brother is building a future. In this family we help each other. But Dad, Ivy. My mom snapped from the stove, glaring at me. Don't be selfish. Your father does so much for everyone. Leo needs this. Why do you always have to make things so difficult? I looked at Leo. He wasn't looking at me. He was busy checking his phone, a small smirk on his lips. He knew he didn't have to fight. They would fight for him. I'll see what I can transfer, I whispered, looking down at my lap. Good, Dad said, instantly picking up his newspaper again. The tension left the room. Have it in his account by tomorrow. I sat in the kitchen of the perfect house on Elm Street, surrounded by my family, and I had never felt more alone in my entire life. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The $8,000 transfer to my brother's account cleared the next morning. For a week, my mother called me every day, her voice sweet and full of praises. She even dropped off a box of my favorite homemade cookies at the hospital front desk. But as soon as the money was spent, the phone calls stopped. The warmth vanished. I went back to being invisible. 15 months passed. It was now Thursday, February 16, 2023. I sat in my small office at the Nebraska Medical Center. The room smelled like sterile alcohol wipes and stale coffee. Outside my door, I could hear the constant beeping of heart monitors and the quick footsteps of nurses rushing down the hallway. I was staring at a heavy cream envelope on my desk. My hands were actually shaking. I opened it. The letter inside was signed by the hospital board. After years of missing holidays, sleeping in empty break rooms, and pushing my body to the absolute limit, it was official. I was voted in as a senior partner at the surgical clinic. I read the words 3 times to make sure they were real. A tear slipped down my cheek and dropped onto the paper, leaving a small wet circle. I wiped my face quickly. I picked up my phone. My fingers hesitated over my father's contact name. Would he care this time? I pressed call. It rang 4 times before he answered. Richard speaking. His business voice boomed through the speaker. Dad, it's Ivy. I took a deep breath. I got the letter today. The board voted. I made senior partner. There was a pause on the line. The silence stretched. I could hear the sound of a sports game playing on the TV in the background. Well, he finally said, clearing his throat. That is good news, Ivy. That means a big pay bump, doesn't it? Yes, I said quietly. The excitement in my chest shrank a little. It does. Good. Tell your mother when you get home. I have to get back to this meeting. He hung up. I put the phone down, feeling foolish for expecting anything else. I turned back to my patient files. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Ivy, she said, her voice unusually high and excited. Your father just told me the news. Oh, we are just thrilled. A senior partner. In fact, your father and I were just talking. We want to host a dinner for you this weekend. A celebration. I stopped writing. A celebration? For me? Of course for you. You are our daughter. We want the whole family to know. Aunt Clara, Uncle Dave, the cousins. Everyone is coming. Saturday night. Wear that nice dark blue silk dress, okay? See you then. She ended the call before I could say no. I sat back in my chair. A strange, warm feeling spread in my chest. A dinner for me. They had never hosted a dinner for my graduation, or my first job. They only threw parties for Leo. Maybe they finally saw how hard I worked. Maybe I had finally done enough to make them proud. Saturday evening, March 4th, 2023. The driveway of the Elm Street house was packed with cars. When I walked through the front door, the smell of roasted garlic, rosemary, and expensive perfume filled the air. The house was buzzing with voices. "There she is, the big doctor!" Uncle Dave shouted from the living room, holding a glass of red wine. He walked over and patted my shoulder heavily. "We always knew you had your dad's brains." Aunt Clara smiled from the sofa. "Your parents haven't stopped talking about your new salary, Ivy. They are very proud." I forced a smile, though the comment about my salary made my stomach twist slightly. My dad stood by the fireplace, wearing his best suit. He looked like the perfect family man. When he saw me, he walked over and actually put his arm around me. "Look at her," Dad said loudly, making sure the room was listening. "We pushed her hard. We gave her the best education. Sometimes you have to be tough on your kids so they succeed. Right, Dave?" "Absolutely," Uncle Dave nodded. "It takes a strong family to build a successful career." No one mentioned the nights I studied by flashlight because my parents refused to pay my college electricity bill. No one mentioned the loans I took out myself. They rewrote history right in front of me, and everyone in the room smiled and nodded. We moved to the large dining table. My mother had prepared a huge feast. For an hour the conversation was light and happy. My brother Leo sat quietly across from me. He wasn't wearing his usual designer clothes. He wore a simple, slightly wrinkled shirt. He looked nervous. When the dessert plates were cleared, my father stood up. He picked up his crystal water glass and tapped it with a silver spoon. Clink, clink, clink. The table went completely silent. Everyone looked at him with respect. "Family," my father started, his voice deep and emotional. "Today we are here to celebrate Ivy. She has reached a level of success that brings great honor to this family name." He looked down at me and smiled. It was a perfect, warm smile. For a second I felt like a little girl again, finally getting a gold star from her dad. "But," Dad continued, his voice shifting to a more serious tone, "success is not just about what you achieve for yourself. Real success is about how you lift up the people who share your blood, how you protect your own." I frowned slightly. The warm feeling in my chest started to turn cold. My father reached under the table. He pulled out a thick black leather binder. He didn't hand it to me gently. He dropped it flat onto the polished wood table. The heavy thud echoed in the quiet dining room. He slid the binder across the table until it stopped right in front of my plate. "Leo has found an incredible opportunity," Dad said, looking around the table at Aunt Clara and Uncle Dave, making sure he had an audience. "A master franchise license for a medical supply company. It is a guaranteed success. He just needs the initial capital." My eyes moved from the black binder to my father's face. "Dad, what is this?" "It's a business plan," Dad grinned, but his eyes were completely cold. "We need $150,000 by Tuesday to secure the contract. Now that you are a rich senior partner, it's time to invest in the family." The room was dead silent. Every single aunt, uncle, and cousin was staring at me. "Don't embarrass us in front of everyone, Ivy," my mother whispered from the other end of the table. "You owe this family." I looked down at the black binder. My hands felt completely numb. The dining room was so quiet that I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I looked down at the heavy black binder. Then, I looked at the sheet cake sitting on the side counter. Earlier I had been so happy I didn't even read it properly. Now my eyes focused on the icing. It didn't say, "Congratulations, Ivy." It just said, "Celebrate." It was a generic cake from a grocery store. There was no surprise party for my promotion. I was just the bank, and my family was the robber. "Dad," I said. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from someone else. $150,000. I don't have that kind of money sitting around. I am a doctor, not a billionaire." My father didn't blink. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "You don't need to have it in cash, Ivy. I already spoke to Jim at the First National Bank. He's a good friend from the club. Because you're a physician and a new senior partner, he fast-tracked a physician personal loan application. He just needs your physical signature on Monday to release the funds." My stomach dropped. The dinner, the sweet phone calls. He had planned all of this. He had even checked my credit and loan options behind my back. "You investigated my finances?" I asked, my hands starting to shake. Not with fear this time, but with a deep, sharp pain in my chest. "I looked out for this family's future," Dad corrected me smoothly. He pointed a thick finger at the binder. "Leo needs this, It's a master franchise for medical supplies. Who better to partner with him than his sister, the big hospital doctor? It makes perfect sense. It makes sense? I looked across the table at Leo. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was staring at his half-eaten slice of roast beef. He looked pale, almost sick. Leo doesn't know anything about medical supplies, I said. Aunt Clara slammed her wine glass down on the table. Ivy, what an ugly thing to say. Your brother is very smart. You are acting so greedy right now. We came all this way to support you, and you are being selfish. Uncle Dave nodded, crossing his arms. Your father has done everything for you, Ivy. He gave you a good name. He paid for your clothes, your food, your roof when you were a kid. It's time to pay the family back. Don't be ungrateful. I looked at Aunt Clara, then at Uncle Dave. They weren't surprised. They weren't shocked by my dad asking for a massive loan at a dinner party. They knew. They had known the whole time. They were here to be the audience, to pressure me into saying yes. I reached out and pulled the heavy black binder toward me. Good girl, my mother sighed from the end of the table. Just read it. You'll see it's a wonderful business. I flipped open the thick leather cover. There was no business plan on the first page. There was no colorful logo for a medical supply company. It was a legal document. The paper had the letterhead of a law firm in downtown Omaha. Restitution and settlement agreement. I blinked, reading the names. Between Horizon Digital Marketing and Leo Abbott. What is this? I asked, my voice dropping to a whisper. Ivy, just look at the numbers, my dad started, standing up quickly. This isn't a franchise, I said, reading the first paragraph. My heart pounded against my ribs. This says, embezzlement. Leo stole money? From the digital marketing firm he worked for last year? The room went completely dead. Uncle Dave suddenly looked very interested in his shoes. Aunt Clara covered her mouth. Keep your voice down, my father hissed. His face turned dark red. The friendly, smiling community man was completely gone. Now he just looked dangerous. He stole $150,000? I asked, looking right at Leo. And the company is demanding the money back by Tuesday, or they will press criminal charges. That's why you need the money. Leo finally looked up. His eyes were full of tears. Ivy, please, I messed up. I just borrowed it to invest in crypto, but the market crashed. If I don't pay them back by Tuesday, I'm going to jail. And you, I turned to my father, my voice breaking. You threw a fake party for my promotion, just to trap me into paying off his crimes? He is your brother, my mother screamed, standing up. Are you going to let him go to prison? Over money? You have the money. You can get the loan. He broke the law, Mom. I work 14-hour shifts saving lives. I have hundreds of thousands in medical school debt. And you want me to take out a $150,000 loan to cover his theft? It's about family loyalty, my father shouted, slamming his fist on the table. The plates rattled. You will sign the papers, Ivy. You will not let this family's name be ruined in this town. Do you understand me? You owe us. I looked at the angry faces staring at me. My mother, crying fake tears for her golden boy. My father, demanding my blood and sweat to save his image. My aunt and uncle, sitting quietly, letting it happen. For 32 years I thought if I just worked hard enough, if I was just perfect enough, they would love me. Standing in that dining room, the last tiny piece of hope inside my heart died. It didn't break. It just quietly turned to ash. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't cry. The pain suddenly vanished, replaced by a freezing, clear calmness. I picked up the heavy binder. Ivy, put that down, my father ordered. I didn't listen. I turned my back to the dining table and walked toward the living room. The large stone gas fireplace was burning brightly, making the room warm and cozy. Ivy, where are you going? My mother yelled. I stopped right in front of the fire. I felt the heat on my face. I looked at the legal papers one last time. Then, I opened my hands and dropped the binder directly into the orange flames. A collective gasp echoed from the dining room. No, Leo screamed. My father rushed forward, but it was too late. The heavy paper caught fire instantly. The thick black leather started to melt and curl. The smoke smelled like burning plastic. I turned around to face my father. He looked like he wanted to hit me. My answer, I said, my voice completely steady, is no. You want to save the family name, Dad? Sell this house. I walked to the front door, grabbed my coat, and walked out into the freezing March night. As I started my car and drove away from Elm Street, my phone started ringing. It was my mother, then Leo, then my father. I didn't answer. I drove in total silence. I was completely alone now. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I could finally breathe. The drive back to my apartment that night was a blur. I didn't turn on the radio. The only sound was the tires rolling over the cold Omaha roads. When I unlocked my front door and stepped inside, the silence hit me like a physical weight. I dropped my keys on the counter. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sank down right there in the hallway, pressing my back against the closed door. My phone vibrated in my coat pocket. It had been vibrating non-stop for 40 minutes. I finally pulled it out. 94 missed calls. Texts were flooding my screen. Mom, how could you do this to us? Come back right now. Leo. Ivy, please, I am begging you. They are going to arrest me. Dad, you have until Monday to fix this, or you are no longer my daughter. I stared at that last text from my father. You are no longer my daughter. The threat was supposed to scare me. It was the same threat he used when I was 16 and wanted to study instead of going to his company picnics. But sitting on the floor of my dark apartment, smelling the faint scent of my own lavender detergent, I didn't feel scared. I felt a deep, crushing grief. I realized my father had never loved me. He loved what I could do for his image. And when I stopped being useful, I stopped being his child. I turned my phone off. The screen went black. I pulled my knees up to my chest and finally, after 32 years of holding it in, I cried. I cried until my throat burned and my lungs ached. I cried for the little girl who just wanted her dad to look at her the way he looked at Leo. Sunday passed in a heavy blur. I didn't eat. I just lay on the couch, watching the sunlight move slowly across the ceiling. Monday morning, March 6, 2023, 6 a.m. I stood in front of the stainless steel scrub sink outside Operating Room 4 at the Nebraska Medical Center. The freezing water ran over my hands and wrists. I watched the pink antibacterial soap wash down the drain. My eyes were red and swollen. I had used concealer to hide the dark circles, but I still looked like a ghost. You are scrubbing too hard, Ivy. You're going to take your skin off. I stopped. I looked to my left. Dr. Evelyn Ross was standing at the sink next to me, pressing the soap dispenser with her elbow. She was 58 years old, the chief of general surgery, and the toughest woman I had ever met. She had mentored me since my first day as a resident. She didn't have kids. She dedicated her entire life to the hospital. Sorry, I mumbled, turning the water off. I grabbed a sterile towel. Evelyn didn't look away from me. Her sharp, pale blue eyes scanned my face. Your patient's gallbladder is routine, but your hands are shaking. If you step into my OR with shaking hands, I will send you home. What is going on? Nothing, just tired. Long weekend, I lied, keeping my eyes on the towel. Don't lie to me, Evelyn said quietly. Her voice wasn't angry, it was firm. I've watched you do 12-hour trauma surgeries without blinking. This isn't tired, this is panic. Did someone die? No, I whispered. My throat felt tight again. No one died, just my family. I couldn't hold it back anymore. Standing in the sterile hallway, I told her everything. I told her about the fake celebration dinner, the $150,000 demand, Leo's embezzlement, the loan papers my father had already prepared with my name on them, the binder in the fire. Evelyn listened in complete silence. She didn't gasp. She didn't offer me a pitying hug. When I finished, she just threw her towel in the bin and crossed her arms. You burned the papers, Evelyn stated. Yes. And you think that's the end of it? She asked, raising an eyebrow. I frowned. What do you mean? I said no. I walked out. Evelyn leaned closer. Her voice dropped, becoming very serious. Ivy, listen to me. Your father is a businessman trying to hide a $150,000 crime. He already went to his bank. He already had legal documents drawn up. He knows your social security number, doesn't he? My blood ran cold. Of course, he's my father. Fathers who trap their daughters at dinner parties do not stop just because you walked out, Evelyn said sharply. If his golden boy is facing prison on Tuesday, your father is going to get that money today. And if he has to forge your signature on a digital loan application to do it, he will. He thinks you won't report him to the police because he's your dad. The air in my lungs vanished. Evelyn was right. My father always believed he was above the rules. He would justify it in his head. I'm just borrowing it to save the family. Ivy will understand later. What do I do? I asked, my voice trembling. For the first time I wasn't just sad, I was terrified. You scrub out, Evelyn ordered. Dr. Harrison can take this gallbladder. You are going to my office. You are going to get on your laptop, and you are going to put a hard fraud freeze on your social security number with all 3 credit bureaus. Right now. 10 minutes later, I was sitting behind Evelyn's heavy mahogany desk. The door was locked. Evelyn was pacing by the window, drinking black coffee. My fingers flew across my laptop keyboard. I logged into Equifax. I hadn't looked at my credit score in years. Between the crushing weight of a $500,000 medical school debt and Uncle Dave handling my taxes, I had always been too anxious to look at the raw numbers. I just paid my monthly minimums and kept my head down. I requested my full credit report before freezing the account. "Okay, the report is loading," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. The screen flashed. The PDF document opened. I scrolled past my student loans. I scrolled past my car payment. Everything looked normal. I let out a breath of relief. "It's fine. Nothing new is—" I stopped. My eyes locked onto a line in the middle of the screen. "What?" Evelyn asked, stopping by the window. "Ivy, what is it?" I leaned closer to the screen. My hands felt completely numb. Account: First National Bank Platinum Business Credit Card. Opened. August 14th, 2019. Status: open. Current balance: $28,450. "There's a credit card," I whispered. "A business card. It was opened 4 years ago. In my name." Evelyn walked around the desk and looked at the screen. 4 years ago? Did you open a business card?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "Never." Then a memory hit me. August 2019. That was the exact same month Leo had started his first business, a custom sneaker company that failed in 6 months. My parents had proudly announced they found investors to fund him. They didn't find investors. They used my name. They had been using my credit, my future, to fund his failures for years, right under my nose, all while calling me selfish. "They stole my identity," I said. The words tasted like metal in my mouth. "Print it," Evelyn said, her voice turning completely cold. She placed a firm hand on my shoulder. It was the only warmth I had felt in days. "Print every single page. They didn't just cross a line, Ivy. They committed a felony." I sat back in the chair. The sadness was completely gone now. The little girl who wanted her dad's approval was dead. In her place, a cold, hard anger started to burn. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to just run away. I was going to find out exactly how deep this poison went, and I was going to cut it out of my life completely. The printer in Dr. Evelyn Ross's office hummed. 4 pages of my credit report slid out into the plastic tray. The paper felt warm in my hands, but my body felt like ice. Evelyn walked to her desk, pulled open a small drawer, and took out a heavy white business card. She slid it across the wood surface toward me. "Thomas Vance," she said. "He is a financial fraud attorney. He helped my sister when her ex-husband tried to hide assets during their divorce. Call him today. Tell him I sent you." I looked at the card. "A lawyer? Evelyn, if I hire a lawyer, this becomes a legal fight against my own parents." "Ivy," Evelyn said softly, sitting down across from me. "They stopped being parents the day they stole your identity to fund your brother. Right now they are criminals who share your last name. You have to protect yourself." Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. 2:15 p.m. I sat in a dark leather chair in downtown Omaha. The office of Thomas Vance smelled like lemon polish and old paper. Mr. Vance was a quiet man in his late 40s with graying hair and a sharp, focused look. He laid my credit report flat on his desk. Next to it, he placed the notes I wrote about the $150,000 demand from the dinner party. "This platinum business card was opened in August 2019, Mr. Vance said, tapping the paper with his silver pen. "The bills were sent to a P.O. box, not your apartment. That's why you never saw the letters. But to open a business account in your name with this kind of limit, they needed more than just your social security number. They needed tax records to prove your income." I frowned. "How did they get my tax records?" Mr. Vance looked up. "Who prepares your taxes, Dr. Abbott?" The breath left my lungs. The room seemed to spin slightly. My Uncle Dave," I whispered. "He's a certified accountant. He's done my taxes since I was a resident. I always email him my W-2 forms every February." Mr. Vance sighed and closed his pen. "There it is. Your uncle had your signature, your income proof, and your social security number. He provided the exact documents your father needed to open the account." I closed my eyes. The image of Uncle Dave at the dinner table flashed in my mind. "You are acting so greedy right now," he had said to me. He had sat there, drinking his red wine, calling me selfish, while he knew perfectly well that he had helped my father steal my identity 4 years ago. He wasn't just a quiet guest, he was part of it. He covered it up to keep my father happy. "Can we prove it?" I asked, opening my eyes. My voice didn't shake this time. "Yes," Mr. Vance nodded. "I will subpoena the bank records and the original application forms. But Dr. Abbott, I need to warn you, When we pull this thread, we might find more than just one credit card. Usually, in family fraud cases, if they do it once and get away with it, they do it again. I pulled my checkbook from my purse. "What is your retainer fee?" $5,000, he said. I wrote the check. It was the last of my emergency savings, the money I had refused to give to Leo. Now, I was using it to tear down the fake world my father had built. Over the next 3 weeks, my life split into 2 different worlds. In the hospital, I was the new senior partner. I performed surgeries, trained residents, and smiled at patients. I threw myself into my work. Evelyn made sure I stayed busy. She checked on me every single day, bringing me coffee, or just sitting in my office in silence when I needed a minute to breathe. But outside the hospital, I was a ghost. I had blocked my parents' numbers. I blocked Leo. I blocked Aunt Clara. But I forgot to block Uncle Dave's office number. On a rainy Tuesday evening, April 11th, 2023, I was sitting on my living room floor, eating a bowl of cold soup. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a voicemail. I pressed play. "Ivy, sweetie, it's Uncle Dave." His voice was soft, gentle, almost like he was talking to a little kid. "Listen, your dad is really stressed out. Your mom hasn't stopped crying. You are tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding. I handle the books, Ivy. I know the numbers look scary, but we can fix this quietly. Just call your dad. We can work out a payment plan for Leo's little mistake. Don't throw away your family over money. Call me back. Leo's little mistake. Tearing this family apart." I listened to the message 3 times. Before the dinner party, a message like this would have made me feel guilty. I would have called him back, apologizing, begging them to love me again. But now, I just heard the fear in his voice. He was scared. He knew if I didn't come back and pay Leo's $150,000 debt, the whole fake empire would collapse. And if the police started looking at my father's finances, they would look at Uncle Dave too. I didn't delete the voicemail. I saved it. I emailed a copy of it directly to Mr. Vance. Every piece of pain, every lie, every manipulative word, I was collecting them. I wasn't going to fight them in a dark kitchen. I was going to wait. I was going to let them think they were safe. The next morning, Mr. Vance called me while I was driving to the hospital. "Ivy," he said. His voice was very serious. "I got the records from the bank, and I found the P.O. box address history." "What did you find?" I asked, gripping the steering wheel. "It's worse than we thought. Your father didn't just open a credit card. In November 2021, the exact same month Leo started his digital marketing business, your father took out a second mortgage on his own house." "On the Elm Street house?" I asked in shock. "But why?" "Because the business Leo stole from. They weren't the first ones. Leo has been borrowing money from private lenders for years. Your dad took out the mortgage to pay them off secretly. He is completely broke, Ivy. The entire family image is a lie. The only person in your family who actually has any real money is you." I parked my car in the hospital lot. The engine went silent. They didn't just want my salary, they needed my life to save theirs. Friday, May 12th, 2023, 1:15 p.m. The East Wing cafeteria of the Nebraska Medical Center smelled like bleach and cheap vegetable soup. I sat at a small corner table by the window. Outside, the spring rain was washing the gray sidewalks. I took a bite of my turkey sandwich. For the first time in 2 months, my stomach didn't hurt. I was sleeping through the night. I wasn't waiting for my phone to ring with demands or insults. "Doctor." Evelyn Ross walked over and sat across from me. She placed a fresh cup of green tea right next to my hand. She didn't ask if I wanted it. She just knew I liked green tea after surgery. "Eat the other half of that sandwich, Ivy," Evelyn said, opening her own salad. "You lost too much weight in April. You need your strength for the afternoon rounds." "Yes, Dr. Ross." I smiled softly. Evelyn wasn't my mother. We didn't share any DNA. But in the last 2 months, she had protected me more than my own parents ever did. She made sure the hospital security knew not to let anyone from my family past the front desk. She checked on me. She listened. She was my real family now. Suddenly, the loudspeaker above us clicked on. "Dr. Ivy Abbott, please come to the main lobby information desk." Dr. Ivy Abbott to the main lobby. Evelyn stopped eating. Her pale blue eyes narrowed. "Were you expecting a patient's family?" "No," I said, my heart skipping a beat. "My afternoon schedule is clear." "I'll walk with you," Evelyn said instantly, standing up. We took the elevator down to the first floor. The main lobby was huge, filled with sunlight and soft noise. I looked toward the large circular information desk. Standing there, wearing a black raincoat and holding a wet umbrella, was my mother. My feet stopped moving. I felt that old familiar panic rise in my chest. My mother looked terrible. Her hair was flat, her face was pale. She didn't have her expensive makeup on. She looked small and broken. When she saw me, she burst into loud, shaking sobs. "Ivy! Oh, Ivy!" she cried, dropping her umbrella and running toward me. She threw her arms around my neck, hugging me tightly. The lobby was full of doctors, nurses, and patients. People turned their heads to look at us. "Mom, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice tight. I didn't hug her back. My arms stayed straight at my sides. She pulled back, wiping her wet face with shaking hands. "It's your father, Ivy. He's in the hospital. He had a heart attack this morning. The stress of the business and Leo, it broke his heart. Please, Ivy, you have to come with me right now. He might not make it." The world stopped spinning. A heart attack. My dad. For 5 seconds, the little girl inside me screamed, "My dad is dying." I felt a rush of pure fear. I opened my mouth to say, "Where is he? Let's go." But then I felt a warm, strong hand grip my shoulder. It was Evelyn. Evelyn stepped forward. She looked at my mother with a completely blank, professional face. "Ma'am," Evelyn said calmly, "I am the chief of surgery here. If your husband had a cardiac event in Omaha this morning, he would be in our system. What hospital is he at?" My mother froze. Her crying stopped for half a second. She looked at Evelyn, confused. He is at the Methodist Hospital, on the west side." "Methodist," I repeated. My medical training kicked in, pushing the fear away. "Mom, who is his attending cardiologist? I can call their floor right now and get his charts transferred." My mother's eyes darted left and right. I don't remember the doctor's name, Ivy. I was too panicked. Stop asking questions and just come with me. We need you to sign some emergency release papers for his insurance." She reached into her large leather purse. She pulled out a brown envelope. It wasn't a hospital form. It was thick. It looked exactly like the legal papers from the dinner party. I stared at the envelope. Then, I looked at my mother's face. Her breathing wasn't heavy. She wasn't shaking anymore. She was just staring at me with desperate, demanding eyes. She was lying. My father didn't have a heart attack. He wasn't dying. She came to my workplace, put on a show in front of my colleagues, and used my love for my father to try and trick me into signing a loan document. The sickness of it hit me like a punch to the stomach. "Put it away, Mom," I said. My voice was dangerously quiet. "Ivy, please, your father is—" "My father is perfectly fine," I interrupted, stepping back. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing but a stranger. "You came to my hospital to lie about a heart attack, just to get money for Leo. How empty are you inside?" "Ivy," she gasped, looking around nervously as people continued to watch us. "Keep your voice down. People are looking." "Let them look," I said coldly. "You want a scene? We can have a scene. If you ever come to this hospital again, if you ever try to contact me again, I will have hospital security arrest you for trespassing, and then I will hand over the proof of the credit card fraud to the police." My mother's mouth dropped open. All the fake tears dried up instantly. Her face turned pale with pure shock. She realized I knew. You wouldn't," she whispered. "We are your family." "No," I said, my voice completely flat. "You are just people I used to know." I turned around and walked away. Evelyn walked right beside me. We didn't look back. Thursday, June 1, 2023, 10 a.m. I was sitting in Mr. Vance's law office. Outside, the summer sun was bright. Mr. Vance closed a thick folder on his desk. "Well, Dr. Abbott, today is the day." "The deadline," I said quietly. "Yes. The digital marketing firm gave Leo until today to return the $150,000. I just checked the court records. Because the money wasn't paid, the company officially filed a civil lawsuit and a formal police report this morning." I slowly let out a breath. It was finally happening. The fake perfect world was cracking. "And my parents?" I asked. Mr. Vance pulled out a glossy piece of thick white cardstock. He slid it across the table to me. It had beautiful gold writing on it. "I received this from a private investigator we hired to watch the bank accounts," Mr. Vance said. "Your parents are ignoring the police warrant. They are pretending everything is completely normal to keep the neighborhood from talking. In fact, they are hosting their massive 40th wedding anniversary party next month." I looked down at the gold writing. "Richard and Helen Abbott cordially invite you to celebrate 40 years of love and family. Saturday, July 15, 2023. The Grand Ballroom, Omaha Country Club." "A massive party," I whispered. while their son is about to be arrested and their house is drowning in a second mortgage. They are desperate to keep the mask on, Mr. Vance said, leaning back in his chair. Aunt Clara, Uncle Dave, the whole Rotary Club, everyone is going to be there. They think if they just act rich, the problems will disappear. I stared at the invitation. I remembered the dinner party where my dad tried to ruin my life in front of everyone. I remembered my mom faking a heart attack in my hospital lobby. They always used an audience to trap people. They loved a crowd. Mr. Vance, I said slowly, looking up at my lawyer. You have all the bank records, right? The proof of the fake credit card, the secret mortgage, the embezzlement charges. I have everything, he nodded, sealed and certified. Make copies, I said. My voice was calm, but my hands were completely steady. Put them in a nice, neat binder. Mr. Vance looked at me carefully. Ivy, what are you planning? I picked up the beautiful gold invitation. I looked at my parents' names. My parents love hosting parties, I said softly. I think it's time I finally attend one. Wednesday, June 28, 2023, 4 p.m. The heavy oak table in Mr. Vance's conference room was covered in white paper. There were bank statements, tax returns, and copies of the police warrant for my brother Leo. I stood by the window, looking down at the busy Omaha streets. The summer heat was melting the tar on the roads. I made 6 copies, just like you asked, Mr. Vance said softly. He was sliding the thick stacks of paper into sleek, dark blue folders. One for your father, one for your mother, one for Uncle Dave, and a few extras. I turned around and looked at the folders. They looked so normal, just office supplies. But inside them was the absolute destruction of my family's life. Ivy, Mr. Vance said, stopping his hands. He looked at me with deep, serious eyes. As your lawyer, I need to ask you one last time. Are you sure about this? Once you hand these out at that party, there is no going back. The country club is full of their business partners and friends. When this goes public, the police will likely open a full fraud investigation into your father and your uncle. They will lose their house. They might face jail time. I walked over to the table and touched the smooth cover of the top folder. I thought about my father. I remembered being 9 years old, bringing home a perfect report card, waiting for him to say good job. He just patted my head and walked away to watch Leo play video games. I thought about the $150,000 dinner party. I thought about my mom faking a heart attack in my hospital. They never cared about my pain. They only cared about my usefulness. I am sure, I said quietly. They built a house of cards on top of my name, Mr. Vance. I am just pulling my name out from under it. He nodded slowly. Okay. I will have a courier deliver the original copies to the Omaha Police Department fraud unit on Monday morning. Whatever happens at the party, you will be legally safe. Saturday, July 15, 2023, 5:30 p.m. I was standing in front of the long mirror in my bedroom. I was wearing a dark green silk dress. It was simple, sharp, and elegant. I wasn't wearing it for my parents. I was wearing it for me. Dr. Evelyn Ross was sitting on the edge of my bed, sipping a glass of water. She had come over an hour ago just to sit with me. She didn't offer me empty advice. She just offered her presence. Your hands are shaking, Evelyn noted quietly. I looked down. My fingers were trembling slightly. I curled them into fists. It's not fear, I said, my voice thick. It's just sad. Evelyn, when I was little, my mom used to brush my hair before school. She would sing this silly little song. Sometimes, I still hear that song in my head. How does a mother go from brushing her daughter's hair to trying to ruin her life? Evelyn set her glass on the nightstand. She walked over and stood right behind me, looking at my reflection in the mirror. People are complicated, Ivy, she said softly. Sometimes, the people who brought us into the world are the most broken ones in it. They don't see you as a person anymore. They see you as a tool to fix their own mistakes. It hurts because you are grieving the parents you deserved, not the parents you actually got. A single tear escaped my eye. I wiped it away quickly with the back of my hand. DNA doesn't make a family, Evelyn continued, her voice firm and grounding. Loyalty makes a family. Respect makes a family. You are doing the right thing. You are surviving. I took a deep, shaky breath and nodded. I picked up the heavy leather bag from my bed. Inside were the 6 dark blue folders. Thank you, Evelyn, for everything. Call me when it's done, she said. Saturday, July 15, 2023, 7 p.m. The Omaha Country Club looked like a movie set. The sun was starting to set, casting a golden light over the green golf course. The massive grand ballroom was lit by huge crystal chandeliers. I handed my car keys to the valet. The young boy looked at my dress and smiled politely. "Have a good evening, ma'am." "Thank you," I said. My heart was beating a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. I walked through the heavy glass doors. The air inside smelled like expensive roses, roasted lamb, and expensive perfume. A string quartet was playing soft classical music in the corner. There were at least 100 people in the room, men in black tuxedos, women in diamond necklaces. These were the elite of Omaha, the politicians, the bank managers, the wealthy business owners. And standing right in the middle of the room, shining like royalty, were my parents. My father was wearing a custom-tailored tuxedo. He was laughing loudly, holding a glass of expensive scotch, patting a local judge on the back. My mother was wearing a sparkling silver gown. She looked beautiful, glowing with fake happiness. She was holding onto my father's arm, smiling at the cameras that a hired photographer was pointing at them. They didn't look like people drowning in debt. They didn't look like people whose son was hiding from the police. They looked perfect. I scanned the room. Uncle Dave was standing near the bar, talking to a real estate agent. Aunt Clara was showing off a new ring to a group of ladies. Everything was a perfectly painted lie. I gripped the strap of my heavy leather bag. I didn't hide in the back. I didn't try to blend in. I kept my head high, my shoulders straight, and I started walking directly toward the center of the room. My dark green dress stood out against the sea of black and white suits. People started to turn their heads as I passed by. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. "Isn't that Richard's daughter? The doctor. I haven't seen her in months." Aunt Clara saw me first. Her smile completely dropped. She tapped Uncle Dave on the arm and pointed at me. Uncle Dave turned, his face turning instantly pale. He spilled a little bit of his drink on his shoe. My mother heard the whispers. She turned around. When her eyes locked onto mine, the fake, glowing smile froze on her face. For a split second, I saw pure, naked panic flash in her eyes. But she was a professional at this game. She quickly recovered and put the warm, loving mother mask back on. She leaned up and whispered something into my father's ear. My father turned slowly. The loud, booming laugh died in his throat. He stared at me, his eyes narrowing. The friendly community man vanished. The cold, calculating villain returned. The string quartet continued to play a soft, sweet melody, completely unaware of the bomb that was about to go off. I stopped walking. I was standing just 10 feet away from them. The crowd around them had naturally formed a wide circle, giving us space, waiting to see a happy family reunion. My father handed his drink to a waiter. He stepped forward, forcing a wide, tight smile for the audience. "Ivy," he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear his loving tone. "You came. We are so happy you decided to join the family tonight." I didn't smile back. I reached into my bag and pulled out the first dark blue folder. "I'm not here to join the family, Dad," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but in that quiet circle it cut through the air like a knife. "I'm here to finish the business you started." The music stopped. One of the cello players missed a note, creating a harsh, scratching sound that echoed across the grand ballroom. The crowd of wealthy guests, politicians, doctors, and business owners went completely still. My father's fake smile twitched. It didn't disappear, but it looked glued on. He took a quick step toward me. He grabbed my upper arm, his fingers digging into my skin like steel hooks. "Ivy," he whispered through his teeth. His breath smelled like expensive scotch and peppermints. "You are drunk. Put that bag away and go to the private lounge in the back. Now." "I haven't had a single drop to drink, Dad," I said quietly. I looked down at his hand on my arm. "Let go of me." He hesitated, looking at the 100 pairs of eyes watching us. Slowly he opened his fingers and stepped back. Uncle Dave hurried over. His face was shiny with sweat, and he was breathing heavily. Aunt Clara followed right behind him, wringing her hands together nervously. "Ivy, sweetie, please," Uncle Dave said, forcing a soft, nervous laugh. He tried to stand between me and the crowd, blocking their view. "This is a party. We are celebrating 40 years of marriage. Let's go talk in the lounge. I'll get you some water, okay? You just look so tired." "I don't need water, Uncle Dave," I said. I reached into my heavy leather bag and pulled out the first dark blue folder. I opened it. "I need you to look at this," I said. I didn't whisper. I raised my voice just enough so the people standing in the front row, the bank manager from First National, the country club president, and Judge Harrison, could hear every single word. August 14th, 2019. I read the date clearly from the top page. "This is a formal notice of intent to sue, and a cease and desist drafted by my attorney. It outlines how a platinum business credit card was opened at First National Bank in my name, using my medical license and my personal tax returns. My father laughed. It was a loud, hollow sound. He turned to the crowd, spreading his hands wide. "Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse my daughter. She works 14-hour shifts at the hospital. She's a bit confused today. Ivy, let's not do this here." I didn't yell. Yelling means you have lost control. I was completely in control. I turned to the tall, older man standing just 2 feet away from my dad. "Judge Harrison," I said calmly. I held out the open folder toward him. "You know what identity fraud looks like, right?" The ballroom was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in the glasses on the nearby tables. Judge Harrison looked at my dad. Then, slowly, he reached out and took the blue folder from my hands. He adjusted his glasses and looked down at the bank papers. "This is a private family matter," Uncle Dave suddenly shouted, his face turning bright red. He lunged forward to grab the folder from the judge. "Give that back." "Is it private, Uncle Dave?" I asked, my voice cutting through his panic. "Because your name is listed in the legal notice as a co-conspirator. You falsified the tax forms used to approve that credit card. You helped him steal my identity to fund Leo's failed sneaker company 4 years ago." Uncle Dave froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Aunt Clara gasped and covered her mouth, taking a big step away from her own husband. "Stop it," my mother shrieked. She pushed past Uncle Dave. Her silver gown shimmered under the crystal lights as she grabbed my wrist. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into my skin. Her eyes were wide, wild, and full of pure panic. "Stop it right now," she hissed, her voice shaking. "You are ruining everything, after everything we have done for you." I looked down at her shaking hand. Then I looked right into her eyes. There was no love there. There was only fear of losing her perfect public image. "Take your hand off me, Mom," I said flatly. She saw the coldness in my face. She let go of my wrist and stepped back, looking at me like I was a monster. I reached into my bag and pulled out the second blue folder. "Where is Leo, Mom?" I asked. He is traveling," she stammered loudly, looking around at the guests to see if they believed her. "He is in Chicago, for a very important business meeting." "No, he's not," I said. I opened the second folder. Inside was a thick piece of white paper with a bright blue police stamp on the top right corner. "Leo is hiding," I said, my voice steady and clear. "The police investigation took a few weeks, but a judge finally issued a felony arrest warrant for him yesterday. That's why he isn't at the house anymore. He stole $150,000 from his last job, and when the company demanded the money back, I turned slowly, looking directly at my father. He wasn't smiling anymore. His face was dark red, his jaw tight. "You threw a fake celebration dinner for my hospital promotion," I continued, "just to trick me into taking out a massive loan to pay off your son's crimes." The crowd erupted into loud whispers. People started stepping away from my parents, like they were carrying a dangerous disease. The smell of roasted lamb and sweet roses suddenly felt suffocating. I saw the bank manager from First National pull out his phone and start typing furiously. My father took a step toward me. His fists were balled up at his sides. He looked like he wanted to hit me. He looked exactly like the man in the kitchen who told me I was no longer his daughter. "You ungrateful little brat," my father hissed, his voice trembling with rage. "I gave you a roof over your head. I gave you food. I made you who you are. You owe this family. You keep your mouth shut." "I owe you nothing," I said. For 32 years my father had controlled me. He used my fear of being unloved to keep me silent. But standing there, under the bright crystal lights, I realized he had no real power. His power only worked when I kept his secrets for him. The second I spoke the truth out loud, his power vanished. I reached into the leather bag one last time. I pulled out a stack of papers clipped together. It wasn't in a folder. "This is the second mortgage you took out on the Elm Street house in November 2021, to pay off Leo's other debts," I said. I dropped the papers right at my father's shiny black shoes. They scattered across the polished wooden floor. "You don't have a business empire, Dad," I said softly, looking at the broken man standing in front of me. "You are completely broke, and I am not your bank anymore." Judge Harrison handed the blue folder to the country club president. He didn't say a single word to my father. He just turned around, picked up his wife's coat from a nearby chair, and walked toward the exit. That was all it took. The spell was broken. "Judge, wait," my father called out, panic finally breaking through his angry voice. "Arthur, please, it's a misunderstanding. Let me explain." But Judge Harrison didn't stop, and neither did the bank manager. Within 5 minutes, the grand ballroom of the Omaha Country Club was almost empty. People didn't run. They just put their drinks down, grabbed their coats, and walked quietly toward the exit. No one wanted to be in the same room as a sinking ship. "Wait! Everyone, please wait! The dinner is about to be served," my mother cried out. Her voice echoed in the large, empty space. She ran toward the door, her silver dress swishing loudly, but people just looked away from her. My father stood completely still in the middle of the room. He looked down at the second mortgage papers scattered near his shiny black shoes. He looked older suddenly. The powerful, scary man who controlled my whole life was gone. He was just a tired, broke old man who got caught. Uncle Dave was sitting on a nearby chair, holding his chest. He was breathing very fast. "I'm going to lose my accounting license," he kept whispering to himself. "They are going to audit my firm. Clara, I'm going to lose the firm." Aunt Clara didn't comfort him. She was busy typing furiously on her phone, probably trying to control the gossip that was already spreading through the town. I looked at all of them. I waited to feel guilty. I waited for that old familiar voice in my head to say, "You made your parents sad. Go apologize." But the voice was gone. The only thing I felt was a strange, deep peace. "You ruined us," my father said softly, finally looking up at me. His eyes were red. "Are you happy now, Ivy? You destroyed your own family." "No, Dad," I said, zipping my leather bag closed. "I just stopped paying for the destruction you caused." I didn't wait for him to answer. I turned around and walked across the polished wooden floor. The valet brought my car around to the front. As I drove away from the country club, the summer rain started to fall again, washing the windshield clean. My phone rang on the passenger seat. It was Dr. Evelyn Ross. "I'm on my way home," I said when I answered. "Are you okay?" she asked. Her voice was steady, like a warm blanket. "I am," I said, and for the first time in my life, it was the absolute truth. "It's done, Evelyn. It's really done." Thursday, August 10th, 2023, 9 a.m. Almost a month had passed since the anniversary party. The summer heat was at its peak in Nebraska. I was sitting in my hospital office, drinking my morning coffee and reviewing a patient's chart. My desk phone rang. It was Thomas Vance, my lawyer. "Good morning, Dr. Abbott," Mr. Vance said. "I have some updates from the Omaha Police Department." "Tell me," I said, putting my pen down. "When you handed those folders out at the country club, it caused an earthquake," Mr. Vance explained. "The bank manager from First National didn't wait. He went to his office the very next Monday and pulled your father's files. They discovered the $28,450 debt on the fake credit card. Because you filed the fraud freeze back in March, the bank officially passed the case to the police." "Did they arrest him?" I asked. My chest felt tight. "Not yet. But the police visited Uncle Dave's accounting firm last Tuesday," Mr. Vance said. "And Ivy, Uncle Dave gave them everything." I closed my eyes. He turned on my dad. "Of course he did," Mr. Vance replied. "When people like that get cornered, they only protect themselves. Your uncle handed over the fake tax documents to prove your father forced him to do it. He thinks it will save his accounting license. It won't. They are both facing felony charges for identity theft and bank fraud." "And Leo?" I asked. There was a short pause on the line. "Leo was arrested 3 days ago at a cheap motel in Kansas City. He was trying to hide from the embezzlement warrant. He is in county jail right now. His bail is set at $50,000. Your parents called a bail bondsman, but they don't have the collateral. Their house is already drowning in that second mortgage." I looked out my office window at the clear blue sky. Leo was in a real jail cell. My father was under police investigation. Uncle Dave was losing his business. The fake perfect image was completely destroyed. They couldn't hide behind big smiles and Rotary Club donations anymore. The real world had finally caught up to them. "Thank you, Mr. Vance," I said quietly. "What happens next?" "Now we wait for the district attorney to file the official charges," he said. "You focus on your patients, Ivy. You are safe. I will handle the rest." Later that night, I was sitting on my couch, reading a medical journal. My personal cell phone was silent. I had changed my number 2 weeks ago. Only Evelyn, Mr. Vance, and the hospital had the new one. But suddenly, I heard a loud knock on my apartment door. Bang, bang, bang. I froze. I slowly put my journal down. I walked quietly to the door and looked through the small glass peephole. It was my mother. She looked terrible. She was wearing a plain gray sweatshirt. Her hair was messy. She looked tired and much older than her 60 years. She was holding a small, crumpled white envelope. "Ivy, I know you are in there," she cried out. Her voice sounded desperate and cracked. "Your car is in the parking lot. Please open the door. Just give me 5 minutes." I didn't open the door. I just stood there, holding my breath. "Ivy, please." She sobbed, leaning her head against the wood. "Leo is in jail. They are treating him terribly. He is scared. And your father, the bank froze all our accounts. We don't have money for groceries. We don't have anything." She slid the crumpled white envelope under my door. "I wrote you a letter," she cried. "I am sorry, okay? I am so sorry. We made a mistake, but you have punished us enough. Please, just read the letter. We need $5,000 for Leo's bail bondsman. Just $5,000, Ivy. You make that in a week. Please, save your brother." I looked down at the white envelope on my floor. She wasn't sorry for what they did to me. She was just sorry that her golden boy was in a jail cell, and she was sorry that they got caught. She still thought she was the victim. She still thought a quick apology letter would fix everything, just so I would open my wallet again. "Ivy, are you going to let your family die on the street?" she screamed, pounding her fists on the door. I picked up my cell phone from the counter. I dialed the front desk of my apartment building. "Hello, security?" I said, my voice completely calm. "This is Dr. Abbott in apartment 4B. There is a woman trespassing in the hallway. She is banging on my door and screaming. Yes, I would like you to escort her off the property immediately. Thank you." I hung up the phone. I didn't yell through the door. I didn't argue. I just walked back to the couch, sat down, and picked up my medical journal again. 10 minutes later, the yelling stopped. The hallway went completely quiet. I looked at the white envelope on the floor. I didn't even open it. I picked it up and dropped it directly into the trash can. Tuesday, September 12th, 2023, 11:30 a.m. The hot summer had finally broken, and the cool autumn air swept through Omaha. Inside the Nebraska Medical Center, the temperature was always the same. I stood by the scrub sink outside operating room 2, pulling off my blue latex gloves. The heavy double doors swung open, and Dr. Evelyn Ross walked out. She pulled down her surgical mask, looking tired but satisfied. We had just finished a complicated 4-hour surgery together. "Good work today, Ivy," Evelyn said, tossing her mask into the red bin. "Your hands were perfectly steady. The new residents are learning a lot from you." "Thank you, Dr. Ross," I smiled, washing my hands under the warm water. The soap smelled sharp and clean. "Take an early lunch," Evelyn told me, drying her hands. "Thomas Vance called my office line 20 minutes ago. He said he tried your cell, but you were in surgery. He wants to see you at his office at noon. It's about the court dates." My stomach did a small flip, but it wasn't panic anymore. It was just anticipation. I nodded, dried my hands, and went to change out of my scrubs. At exactly 12:15 p.m., I was sitting in the familiar leather chair in Mr. Vance's downtown office. The sunlight coming through his large window felt warm. Mr. Vance sat across from me. He didn't have stacks of loose paper today. He just had one neat, thin yellow folder. He opened it, took off his reading glasses, and looked at me. "The legal system moves slowly, Ivy, but when it finally drops the hammer, it drops it hard," Mr. Vance started, his voice calm and serious. "The district attorney's office finalized the plea deals and the charges this morning." I sat perfectly still. "Tell me." "Let's start with your brother," Mr. Vance said, looking at the top paper. "Leo's public defender tried to get him probation, but because Leo tried to run to Kansas City, the judge denied it. Yesterday afternoon, Leo pled guilty to felony embezzlement. He was sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security state facility in Lincoln. He is already on a bus there. 18 months, a year and a half in a prison cell. He wouldn't have my mother to cook his breakfast. He wouldn't have my father to hand him a blank check. For the first time in his 28 years, Leo was going to face the real world all by himself. And Uncle Dave?" I asked quietly. Mr. Vance let out a short sigh. "Your uncle is a coward, but he isn't stupid. The moment the police showed him the tax fraud evidence, he made a deal. He agreed to surrender his certified public accountant license permanently. He will never work in finance again. To avoid jail time, he officially agreed to testify against your father in state court." I shook my head slowly. "He sold his own brother out to save himself." "Thieves rarely have real loyalty," Mr. Vance pointed out. "Which brings us to your parents. The state police officially charged your father, Richard Abbott, with 2 counts of identity theft and 1 count of bank fraud. Because of the amount of money involved, and because Uncle Dave is testifying against him, your father is looking at a minimum of 3 to 5 years in federal prison. His trial is set for January." The room was quiet. I listened to the hum of the air conditioner. "What about their money?" I asked. "Mom said the bank froze their accounts." "They did," Mr. Vance confirmed. "When First National Bank realized the second mortgage was tied to fraudulent funds, and that your father had been missing his monthly installments for the past 5 months. The bank manager pulled the informal grace period he had been giving him. Your father obviously didn't have the money to cure the default. The bank officially initiated foreclosure on the Elm Street house last week. They have until this Friday to pack up their things and leave the property. They are completely bankrupt, Ivy. Your mother is moving into a small rented apartment on the east side of town, and she is looking for a job as a retail clerk just to pay her rent. I looked down at my hands, the hands that saved lives, the hands my parents thought they could control forever. They had lost everything. The country club friends were gone, the big house was gone, the fake respect of the community was gone. They had traded their only loving daughter for money, and in the end, they lost both. "Do you need me to testify at the trial in January?" I asked, looking back up at my lawyer. "No, Mr. Vance smiled softly. "We gave the police a mountain of paper evidence. The documents speak for themselves. You don't ever have to step foot in a courtroom, Ivy. You don't ever have to see them again if you don't want to. My job here is done." I reached out and shook his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. You gave me my life back." When I left the lawyer's office, I got into my car. I started the engine, but I didn't drive back to the hospital right away. I had an hour left of my lunch break. I drove west. I didn't plan it, but my hands naturally turned the steering wheel toward my old neighborhood. I drove down the familiar, quiet streets lined with tall oak trees. I turned onto Elm Street. I slowed my car down as I approached house number 412. I parked across the street and just looked at it. The grass on the front lawn was too long. The beautiful rose bushes my mother used to brag about were dying because nobody was watering them. Right in the middle of the yard, hammered deep into the dirt, was a bright red and white wooden sign, "Foreclosure, property of First National Bank." There was a large white moving truck parked in the driveway. The front door was wide open. I watched from my car window as my father walked out of the house. He was carrying a cardboard box. He wasn't wearing his expensive custom-tailored suits. He was wearing old jeans and a faded gray t-shirt. He looked thin, exhausted, and deeply old. He loaded the box into the back of the truck slowly, rubbing his lower back in pain. A minute later, my mother walked out holding a table lamp. She didn't have her hair sprayed perfectly. She looked defeated. They stood next to the moving truck for a moment. My father said something to her. My mother just shook her head and looked away, staring blankly at the empty street. They didn't look like a proud, happy couple celebrating 40 years of marriage. They looked like two strangers trapped in a nightmare they had built with their own hands. I sat in my car, watching the people who gave me life. If this had happened 2 years ago, I would have run out of my car. I would have handed them my credit cards. I would have let them stay in my apartment. I would have set myself on fire just to keep them warm. But today, I didn't feel anything but a quiet, calm emptiness. I didn't hate them anymore. Hate takes too much energy. Hate means you still care. I just felt sorry for them. They threw away real love for the illusion of control, and now they had nothing left. I didn't roll down my window. I didn't honk my horn. I just put my car in drive, pressed my foot on the gas pedal, and drove away from Elm Street for the very last time. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Sunday, December 24th, 2023, 6 p.m. The snow fell silently outside my apartment window, covering the quiet Omaha streets in a thick white blanket. Inside it was warm. The smell of roasted chicken, garlic, and fresh pine filled the air. I was in my kitchen, pouring 2 glasses of sparkling apple cider. My doorbell rang. I smiled, walked over, and pulled the door open. Dr. Evelyn Ross stood in the hallway, wearing a thick gray wool coat. She was holding a large, beautiful chocolate cake in a pink bakery box. "Merry Christmas, Ivy," she smiled, shaking the soft snow off her boots. "Come in, it's freezing out there." I laughed, taking her coat and hanging it in the closet. As Evelyn went to the kitchen to put the cake on the counter, I walked over to the small table by the door. I had brought my mail up earlier but hadn't opened it yet. Most of it was just hospital newsletters, bills, and colorful holiday cards from my patients. But at the bottom of the pile was a plain white envelope. There was no return address. Just my name, written in a shaky but very familiar handwriting. My dad. I took a slow breath, slid my thumb under the paper flap, and opened it. It was a single piece of cheap lined notebook paper. "Ivy, I go to federal court in 2 weeks. My public defender told me the judge will likely give me 4 years in prison. I spend my days sitting in a tiny, cold rented room, just looking at the wall. The country club friends don't call me. Your Uncle Dave won't even look at me. The people I tried to impress my whole life walked away the second my bank account was empty. I see it now. I built my life on a lie. I chased fake respect, and in the process I destroyed the only real, honorable thing I ever had. You. You worked so hard. You earned everything yourself. I was so busy trying to force Leo to be a success, I didn't see that you were already a giant. I am not writing to ask for a lawyer. I know better now. I am not asking for a single dollar. I just want to say I am sorry. I was a blind, foolish, arrogant old man. I broke my family. I hope someday, maybe in a few years, you can find it in your heart to forgive me, Dad. I stood in the quiet hallway, reading the letter a second time. 32 years. I had waited 32 years for my father to say he was proud of me. I had waited my entire life for him to see my hard work, to apologize for his coldness, and to just treat me like I mattered. If he had handed me this exact letter at my medical school graduation, I would have cried tears of absolute joy. But today, looking at the blue ink on the cheap paper, I didn't cry. I just felt a quiet, heavy sadness, not for myself, but for him. He only realized my value when he had absolutely nothing else left in the world. His apology was real. I could feel the regret in his words. But an apology couldn't erase the years of pain, the fake credit cards, the lies, and the ultimate betrayal at the dinner table. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing people back into your life to hurt you again. Sometimes forgiveness just means letting go of the heavy anger in your chest and walking away forever. You don't have to hate them, but you don't have to give them a seat at your table either. Ivy? Evelyn called from the dining room. The chicken smells amazing. Are we eating soon? I looked at the letter one last time. I didn't rip it up. I didn't burn it in anger. I just opened the small drawer of my hallway table, placed the letter gently inside, and pushed the drawer closed. Coming, I called back. I walked into the bright, warm dining room. Evelyn was lighting the small white candles on the table. She looked up and smiled at me. It was a real, genuine, safe smile. I sat down across from her. I was finally home. Sunday, April 14th, 2024, 10 a.m. The harsh Nebraska winter was finally over. I sat on my small apartment balcony, holding a warm mug of green tea. The morning air smelled like wet grass and fresh spring rain. The city of Omaha was quiet. January had come and gone. The federal trial was short. Mr. Vance sent me a brief email with the final results. My father was now serving his 4-year sentence at a federal facility in South Dakota. My mother was working the cash register at a discount pharmacy on the edge of town, living alone in a tiny rented room. Leo was still in his minimum security cell, learning how to wake up at 6 a.m. every day to do laundry duty. I knew where they were, but I didn't visit. I didn't send letters. I didn't put money in their prison accounts. For 32 years I believed that because we shared the same last name, I owed them my entire life. I thought if I just suffered enough quietly, if I just gave them enough money and obedience, they would eventually love me. But sitting on my balcony, watching the green leaves blow in the gentle wind, I finally understood the truth. True love is not a debt you pay with your own pain. The heavy glass door slid open behind me. I brought the potting soil, Dr. Evelyn Ross said, stepping out onto the balcony. She was wearing faded blue jeans and a plain white t-shirt. She dropped a large plastic bag of dirt next to a row of empty clay pots. Are you ready to plant these tomatoes, or are you just going to drink tea all day? I laughed, setting my mug down on the small table. I'm ready. We spent the next hour working with our hands. Evelyn got dark soil on her cheek and didn't even care. We talked about hospital schedules, new surgical techniques, and what kind of pizza we were going to order for dinner. I looked at her as she carefully patted the dirt around a small green plant. We didn't share a single drop of blood. She didn't look like me, but when my entire world was falling apart, she was the one who locked her office door, handed me a lawyer's card, and helped me fight back. She never asked for a piece of my salary. She never asked me to protect her reputation. She just wanted me to be safe. I realized that real loyalty is built by everyday actions, not by birth certificates. The people who truly belong in your life are the ones who protect your peace, not the ones who destroy it. I thought about the hallway table inside my apartment. My father's apology letter was still sitting in the dark drawer. I never wrote him back. Some people think a happy ending means everyone cries, hugs, and sits around a big dining table together again. But real life doesn't work like that. Sometimes, the happiest ending is simply a locked door and a quiet room. I had forgiven my father in my own heart. I didn't wish him any harm anymore. But I was never going to give him the power to hurt me again. I walked into the kitchen and washed the dark soil off my hands. The warm water ran over my skin, washing away the dirt. I dried my hands on a clean towel and took a deep breath. My chest felt completely light. There was no fear, there was no guilt. I walked back out to the bright sunlit balcony to help Evelyn finish planting. I was 33 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I belonged. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about reclaiming your worth.